go. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for November 6, 2007. Roberta, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Long, Supervisor Foy, Supervisor Bennett,
Here.
Supervisor Flynn, and Supervisor Parks.
Here. We do have 2 absent board members. At this time, we're fortunate to have Pastor Dan Hull from the First Church of the Nazarene in Ventura here with us to give us our moment of affirmation. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
God, today is a day of privilege and responsibility. We have the privilege of voting, and I pray that we will all use that privilege and take responsibility. I also pray, God, that in this room, in the things that happen, in the decisions that are made, you will bring a sense of unity, a sense of knowledge, and a sense of understanding. I do pray your blessing of peace, and when this day is finished, I pray that each supervisor and each person who participates will feel like the job has been well done. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Dursey, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Hand over heart, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you again, Pastor Hall. Appreciate you coming. We now have on our agenda the minutes, and these are the minutes of both September 18th and 25th. Do I have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and seeing no objection, then the minutes do pass. At this point, we'll go on to our agenda review portion of the agenda. Mr. Dursey, are there any proposed changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to announce we do not have any changes today.
Oh, boy. You're doing better than Johnny Johnson
Yeah,
already.
right.
Our next item on the agenda is our consent agenda items 10 through 20. Are there any requests to pull any of these items? We have a motion to approve the consent items. Sure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda items, and seeing no objections, then that also passes. That moves us right along to our public comment portion of the agenda, and do we have any cards? Thank you. Father Boyle?
Actually, it's Armando Vasquez for Father.
Okay, great. Armando?
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If I could pass these, I have. I come before you with an issue, quite possibly a solution, that concerns the county that you folks may not be aware of. A couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago, Dr. DeBreeze and I were approached by some county people out of Ted Meyer's office to help and assist with a problem that is apparently going to occur, if it's not occurring already in the county, and that is many parolees, people that are being released from jail, are now reintegrating back into the community. The job placement people, the county people, don't know what to do with them. Hence, they came to the Cafe Ane, the Keys program, to ask us for our assistance. Father Boyle is going to be there tomorrow to give us a word of inspiration, and then he's going to say, it's not my damn problem. It's your problem. The broken chickens, ladies and gentlemen, have come home to roost. This 25-year war that we've had against crime, the 3 strikes, the mandatory minimum sentencing, the civil gang injunctions, the police immigration working hand in hand with one another, the enhancements, the failed war on drugs, have all put lots and lots and lots of people in jail, and they're going to come home broken, angry, dysfunctional. You're right, we don't know what to do with them. My proposal would be, and it's on the table as we speak, the city of Oxnard has been willing to put 200 jobs on the table if the county will help and work with workforce investment monies. We're talking about $500,000 that for the past 4 or 5 years has gone to the Boys and Girls Club. I don't have anything against the Boys and Girls Club, as I don't have anything against the Weiss's office, Chuck Weiss's office. But that money is not to remediate kids educationally. It's to provide training for broke people. And if the city of Oxnard is willing to do that, and we can do that in the city of Ventura, and if we can do that in Santa Paula, in Fillmore, then we've got potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs immediately for a fraction of the cost that it will cost us to reintroduce these broken people back into jail. And then 20 years later, they'll be back on us. Please think about these things, ladies and gentlemen. And I would urge you to attend tomorrow the meeting, and let's get together and provide some jobs for these people and some training. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Carol Dean William, followed by Penny Boehm, and our last speaker, Ernest Stein, I think.
Carol Dean Williams, before you write Johnny off too fast, I think you need to have your new CEO have an interview with a member of the public, me, to make sure he has a public personality. So, Paul, you can be thinking about that. All right, here, spending on consultants. $49,412,197. I quoted these numbers correctly off of this sheet, and I was called a liar by the city manager and by the Brian Brenner that says, quote, there should be truth in the public arena, unquote. So there's proof that Carol Dean Williams doesn't lie. $49 million plus on consultants for the city of Ventura. So, Rick Cole, the city manager, invited me to sit down with him, and these are exact quotes. Well, I don't think we have sat down face to face like this before, Carol Dean. This is Rick Cole speaking. And Carol Dean, I inherited your reputation. Does that mean I have to have a will so I can will my reputation to my family members? He inherited my reputation. And I tried to come in, Carol Dean, with an open mind. Well, his mind wasn't open, it was closed. Carol Dean, I inherited your reputation that you are never happy. And I guess I bought into that. Can you believe it? Never met a person in his whole life and believes something about an inherited reputation? Well, some lady sang a song, she was the happiest girl in the whole USA. I'm the happiest guy in the whole USA. What's wrong with these people? I want to start fresh with you, Carol Dean. Now listen to here. I don't like writing you off, Carol Dean. I don't like overlooking your genuine concerns, Carol Dean. Overlooking? Carol Dean, I don't want to show any personal discourtesy or disrespect to you, so that is where I'm at, Carol Dean. I would like to start fresh with you, Carol Dean. Well, Carol Dean, you showed some courtesy. Some of your concerns are somewhat valid concerns. The city manager of Ventura, on tape,
This is on tape. No question that he said it. The next part gets better. He admits using the police department on me. It gets better. Rick Cole, now, he's quoted in the Star that has some pimps here in the audience. Mr. Cole is quoted in the Star that he advised me to campaign against his three bosses that's running for re-election. That's what he told the press, or that's what the press printed. You know, he told me to run against his three bosses. So he wrote a poem and asked me to read this poem. This ain't city manager Rick Cole. This is King Cole. This is what he said. 3 bad bosses up for election. I'm city manager, 4 to go in 2-year selection. 4 bad bosses coming up for election. I said I'm the city manager, getting rid of 7 of less of perfection. 3 bad bosses, 3 good losses. I'm the city manager. I decide the 1, 2, 3 tosses. Now, that's Rick Cole.
Mr. Dean, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker then is Penny Boehm, followed by Ernest Stein.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor Bennett, Supervisor Flynn, Mr. Dursey. My name is Penny Boehm, and I'm here this morning bringing you greetings from the Channel Islands Harbor lessees with just a brief update on what's happening at the harbor that I thought might be of interest to you. As you know, the Binger Marine Emporium Landing, that particular building that burned down, is almost completed. They're doing tenant improvements right now and expect to have tenants in there and be fully operational in January or February of '08. The X1B site is currently going through its second plan check with the City of Oxnard, and they expect to begin construction on that within 30 to 60 days. So that is good news too. The Channel Islands Marina, where the docks are being replaced, by February or March, Brian Dunn expects to have all of those completed. So that, again, is good news. Greystar continues to be happy with the high occupancy of the Hampton Inn. A lot of people are enjoying staying down there at the harbor in the Hampton Inn. And next month, I understand he will begin his community outreach, or later this month, community outreach to receive input from the public regarding the Casa Serena Hotel and the Lobster Trap restaurant. Fisherman's Wharf, Mr. Zucker has begun his extensive outreach, a very ambitious outreach, and to date he's received a lot of positive remarks and comments from the public. He has about 15 to 18 groups he's going to be meeting with. Half of them have been set up and completed as of today. Good input. We've had comments through Mr. Zucker. One woman said after the presentation, "Will this happen in my lifetime?" Another woman said, "How soon can you start?" And I received a flyer in my neighborhood, I'm in Oxnard, and this flyer came out yesterday, and part of it says, Fisherman's Wharf Channel Islands Harbor Enhancement Project includes both retail and residential elements with pedestrian-friendly promenade along the waterfront and slip for water taxi and occasional boaters. No timeline to demo existing buildings yet. And then it says, let's hope it's sooner rather than later. So with that, there are positive comments out there. There's no there's nothing in concrete as to how it's going to look. We just know it will be mixed use, and it will have restaurants and living quarters, etc. So thank you for your time.
Just a quick question for you. Who put out this blue flyer that you were reading?
This comes from Bodine, from the Neighborhood Shores News. It reaches about 1,200 people who live in the Neighborhood Council, Oxnard Shores, the Dunes area, and the surrounding area. About 1,200 people receive it.
Thank you, Ms. Bayman. Our last speaker then is Ernest Stein.
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. My name is Ernest Stein, a resident of Oxnard. Quite quickly here. Also, we have received in my neighborhood, living in South Oxnard, similar newsletters and postcards from the county's office of Lynn Krieger, and she's invited the public to go to several workshops to talk about Channel Islands Harbor and the development going on over there. So there is a lot of community input going on from what I've seen. But also, I've seen also a lot of blight. I'm sure the county is going to address it, but there is a lot of, and it's been going on for years, a lot of public perception that Lynn Krieger is the enemy. Lynn Krieger is bad. Lynn Krieger has been doing this. Lynn Krieger has been doing that. There's a lot of public perception going on over here, and some of us, think it's true. Some of us think it's not. Some people don't even know what's going on. And so what's going on, from what I've heard, is a new organization is being formed called the Channel Islands Harbor Coalition, and their sole purpose is to address these issues and the quality of life issues and bring those issues before the Board of Supervisors so that you guys may address it to your abilities. And also, a petition is being formed by these organizations to just let the Board of Supervisors know that the people are going to stand up to these issues. So please keep your eyes open for that. And also, I don't live over by the Challenge Harbor, and I live in South Oxnard, so I really don't know as many issues as I should. But just by driving by over there, I know a lot of friends that live in Silver Strand, and one of the main concerns is that Kitty Beach. It's been a huge issue going on for years, and the fact of the matter is, back in the day, these kids used to be able to swim over there. Now, it's constantly polluted. I don't know what's going on. I've heard from rumors from the Army Corps of Engineers that they've been trying to work with it, trying to fix it, but it still hasn't been addressed. So if you guys could address it quickly, I'd appreciate that. And also for those homeowners living right there off that road, I forget what it's called, but there's a huge rock wall full of stray cats. And I don't know, and I'm not an appraiser, but I'm sure if you live right next to a rock wall of stray cats, the property value is going to be diminishing. If not now, probably later. So these are some of the issues that I think can be addressed more quickly than others, like development and other sort of issues of that sort. But if you guys can address it, please do. And again, a coalition is being formed called the Challenge Harbor Coalition, and those residents and those people involved with that are going to be delivering a petition out to address some of these issues and bring them before the board. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to come down and give us your input. That concludes our public comment portion of the agenda, and we can now go to board comments. Supervisor Flynn, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd ask the board to adjourn in memory of the people that I submit to the clerk of the board. And then on two items, both of which concern the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board, which held a meeting last week. And I went to the meeting. There were two items of concern. One was an item on Kitty Beach, which had come to this board, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I had asked at that time that the item be continued so there could be a better understanding of it. The board, the LA Regional Board, turned down the request. In effect, the staff said the request was really very difficult to understand, and in essence did not really make sense, because the board will continue with the 5-year plan, will listen to more input, but what was presented there simply was not accepted. I did present to the board information, I think the following week, on the item that Kitty Beach now has been declared clean by state standards now for 90% of this year, and there have only been 7 instances, I think, either 7 or 9, where it didn't measure up to state standards, but it has increasingly met that standard. Now, there's several things that have happened to cause perhaps that to be the reason for it that we should look at. One is there's not much runoff, and 2, there is a collection a device that has been installed by the Watershed Protection District, along with the cooperation and money from the city of Oxnard, to collect debris. And so the testing of the DNA that was referred to by staff here earlier certainly isn't conclusive, because the runoff from that channel, which is the Channel Islands channel, it's the red line channel that you observe when you drive down Channel Islands, and it deposits into the harbor on the Wainimi, or on the Mandalay Bay side of the harbor. So people there are very concerned. So I made my presentation there. The staff agreed with the presentation. The issue remains the status quo in effect. The recommendation from staff was not voted in favor of by the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board. The other issue is the important issue of chlorides in the Santa Clara River, and the effect that the chlorides have on agriculture, on particular crops and agriculture, and the impact that chlorides has on fruit and other even in row crops. And we're making great progress. I think I think the board is moving in a direction that favors the county's position and agriculture's position on the item, and that is to reduce the chloride down to an acceptable level that agricultural products will be able to continue to produce the excellent fruit that it does. There is a division that the LA board is considering dividing the upper section up above the Ventura County line into sections. And one section they've looked at looks like it doesn't need such strong restrictions. However, after listening to the testimony that I gave testimony, I think that the board is going to take another look at that issue. It is one of the, I think, most serious issues we have today in Ventura County. I was there. There were no other members of the board there, no other members of elected officials. And Rob Roy was there, who has done just an outstanding job. I think needs a lot of praise for this. But it is an issue that affects all of us, and I hope that we stay on top of it. Anyway, that's my report on two issues, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Flynn, would you like to close in honor of anyone? I notice you have a few here. To close in honor of our meeting, did you have a list?
Yes. I
Okay. Okay. And Supervisor Bennett?
Thank you. Three things. First, I'd like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of people on this list, and I'd like to call one out, Pearl Lieber. Pearl, along with her husband Murray, advocated for more care and additional housing for those with mental illness. They were so devoted to their mission that they were waiting to see me on my very first day that I came into office. When I got here in the morning, they were there sitting in the office waiting for me. They had gotten in here really early. As their health declined these past couple of years, they haven't been as public out there, but Pearl will be remembered as a person who already tried to make things better, speak up for those who weren't able to advocate for herself. And I just mourn the loss of the first constituent that contacted me after I moved in here. The other two things I'd just like to point out is that it's election day, and for anybody that happens to be hearing this who hasn't remembered to vote yet, I encourage everybody to make sure that they get out and vote today. If you're in a district, quite a bit of my district has elections going on at this point in time. And then finally, it's very interesting 2 days here, today and tomorrow. Today the House will hear the veto override push on President Bush's veto of the WRDA bill, which includes funding for the Matilahaw Dam project. And tomorrow the Senate is scheduled to do that. So hopefully in the next 48 hours, we'll have an override, and both of them are predicted to pass, of the president's veto. And it would be the first veto override in his administration, and it would be certainly another great positive step for Matilla Dam funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Bennett. I would also ask that the board close in honor of the people on this list. I'd like to call out Reverend Dr. Elmer Remnitz, who was the father of another reverend we have in Thousand Oaks. And we did attend the ceremony recognizing his wonderful life and ask that the board close in his honor. I know he's going to be sorely missed by many. I was also over the last week able to attend a couple of events. One was the wonderful Thousand Oaks Rotary Street Fair, where I got to sell hamburgers, hot dogs, and snow cones. But also the SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, voted to go ahead and release the regional comprehensive plan that the committees have been working on, and I was able to participate in some form on at least looking at the open space and agriculture portion of that. The regional comprehensive plan is something that I'm really hoping our staff will take a good look at and give some input into. It includes everything from air quality to affordable housing to energy and open space, and looking over a long span of 2035 is the date that it looks out to. So I think it's an important document. This will be the policy setting document for when SCAG receives EIRs, for example, which is a requirement that SCAG will have to give input on those, and we'll have this document, this regional comprehensive plan, in which to do that with. I think it's pretty bold. It does fall in step with AB 32, which is a requirement regarding greenhouse gases. So to me, it's kind of a dawning of a new age for our region. SCAG represents 6 counties. With that concludes my board comments, and we can go on to our regular agenda, which is a short agenda. And it starts off with item 25, which is the Area Agency on Aging item.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Dursey. I love being first alphabetically amongst the agencies. I come to you today to bring our year-end report for fiscal year 2006-07, and I ask that you ratify, approve, and authorize us to forward it to the California Department of Aging.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this? I noted there are a couple of things in your summary of ideas that were generated to incorporate in this report that the county is very interested in, and it actually has things on it relative to our own agenda this very day. And that both includes looking at being able to assist with retirement assistance to those people in that gap before they get Medicare. And then also looking at the fact that we are having a lot of seniors who are taking care of their grandchildren now. I think that's more than ever these days too. So
it's a huge growing population in this county, and I don't think that most people realize the number of grandparents that are now have responsibility for taking care of their grandchildren.
I don't know exactly what has brought forward that particular demographic.
A lot of it's
drug related. So the parents have drug issues, and the children are being raised.
Taken away, yes.
Mm-hmm. So the children are being raised by the grandparents, and we're seeing more of that.
Yes.
Are there any comments or a motion on this?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out in your report, you modestly kind of put it all well in the back, but the Ventura County AAA received the Aging Achievement Award for Best Practices from National Association of Area Agencies.
Yes.
So congratulations for that. Congregate meals increased 12% over the 2005. Over the 2005-2006 issue, and a number of other fine achievements over the past year. The $7,000 for the door-to-door transportation for the seniors with help of OHI, another nice thing. But there are a number of those things. But congratulations, you guys are doing good work, and keep it up. It's been nice transition. You had big shoes to fill when you came in a number of years ago, and you're doing real well with it. So I'd like to move the recommended action.
We have a motion and a second, and seeing no objections, that passes. Thank you for your report. Our next item on the agenda is item 26 regarding retiree health benefit programs.
Morning,
Hi, good
Madam
morning,
Chair,
Mr.
members of the
Zimmerman.
board. I'm Barry Zimmerman, Director of Human Resources for the record. Today, before you is the approval of the medical package for the retirees. That would include the medical health, dental and vision plans, similar to our active plans that went about a month or a month and a half ago. There were modest increases in the rates. They do trail similar to that of the active plans, anywhere from 5 to about 12.6%. The notable item I would like to point out to you is that in our retiree health plans, we have multiple plans, as you see by the rate packages in the back, due to the different eligibility criteria and the different medical plans, whether it's Medicare-based plans or pre-65 or Medicare plans. I'd like to talk just briefly on what is happening with those that we call early retiree or pre-65 plans. Last year we came before the board and noted that there is that we pool them together into an active pool, so all our pre-65-year-old early retirees and active employees are pooled in one medical risk pool for the purchase of purchasing health care. At that rate, the retirees are able to receive a benefit from that purchasing power. That creates an implicit subsidy that is borne by the active employees. That was brought out last year, that implicit subsidy, due to new accounting standards, would have to be disclosed. And so we went through the year in calculating that out and trying to figure out what the cost would be associated with that. We have done that, and in the letter it describes what our recommendation is to keep the practice currently the way it is by pooling them together and recognizing the implicit subsidy, since we feel it's not material in amount based on the figures we have at this point. We have received acknowledgement from the coalition of unions, because the implicit subsidy is borne by the active employees, a subsidy of 4% roughly, and they concur with that and agree with this practice at this point in time. I have met with the retirees and discussed this with them and noted that as long as we believe that the cost and the implicit subsidy as borne by the actives is reasonable, we will maintain that purchasing pool together. In the future, if that starts to skew one way or the other, we will then start to shift the rates or the cost increase more heavily onto the retirees. But at this time, that is not the recommendation to do so. They were agreeable to that, and as far as we're concerned, we have a workable plan and good plans at this point in time. So if you have any questions, I'd like to entertain those for you.
I don't know if there's any questions. I have two.
Sure.
One is, this is only for the purpose of providing health care. So, for example, it's not like our current employee plan that you can opt out and you get a level of subsidy for opt.
No.
Okay. And the other question I have is, let's see. Oh, as we heard from our area agency on aging, that we do have grandparents taking care of grandchildren now, and those are considered dependents, I would think.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, in the pool of retirees, if we do have, because it also would cover their dependents, this medical
That's
plan. If we, maybe at a future time, you can get to me the age range we're talking about in these dependents, so we have an idea about the longevity of the program.
Very good. I'll do
Okay.
that.
Thank you. With that, is there a motion? Motion is second. See no objection, that passes. Thank you very much. Item 27. This is a recommendation of the independent selector, and Ms. Dale Tompkins is going to report on that.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Dursey, Del Tompkins with the County Executive Office. This is a policy item for the board for an appointment to the Campaign Finance Ethics Commission from Supervisorial District 2. As you know, each board member is required to submit the names of 3 potential candidates for review and recommendation by an independent selector who is Judge Joseph Haddon. In this case, Supervisor Parks has nominated Michael Ferris, Elise Lazar, and Fred Rosenmund. Judge Haddon has had an opportunity to look at their applications as well as their supplemental forms and has indicated that all 3 candidates are well qualified. But he is recommending that the board consider appointing Elise Lazar as the new commissioner from District 2. Your board has the option of either accepting the independent selector's recommendation or selecting one of the other 2 nominees. The person selected would fill the remainder of a term ending June 30th of 2011. If there are any questions, I'm available to respond.
Thank you. I know Supervisor Flynn had wondered about the where the individuals are nominated from, whether there is some kind of requirement that they have to be within the district of the supervisor who nominates.
They do not. You may select an individual from anywhere within the county so long as they meet the requirements of qualification in the ordinance.
Thank you. Yes, Supervisor Flynn.
I have great respect for Judge Haddon. He's really one of the great people of Ventura County, so I really have great faith and trust in him, and I move the recommendation that he has given. Also, I would say that the other candidates, especially Fred Rosen, because I know him, he is an outstanding individual also, so I just want that to be part of the record.
Is there a second to the motion? And a second. And I would note that this will make a completely all-female commission. Is that right?
For the moment, yes.
Yes. That will be a first, I think, except for maybe the Women's Commission. All right.
Well, the records show that I made the motion.
Yes, the record shows that Supervisor Flynn made the motion to appoint Elise Lazar. Seeing no objections, then that motion is carried. Thank you. With the next item then is item 28. This is our Public Works Agency and Mr. Britt regarding the Safe Routes to School grant funds.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Dursey. My name is Butch Britt, Public Works Agency. This is approval of your board to submit the applications that are listed in the board letter. If there are any questions, I'm here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions on this?
Move the recommended action.
We have a motion and second, and seeing no objections, that passes.
Thank you, Butch.
Mr. Britt, is there some way that we can enhance the potential for getting the grant funds, a letter from the board or anything along those lines?
We will certainly check out that possibility.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything we can do. Those are some great funds for traffic improvements. Our next item on the agenda is item 29, and this is regarding the Steckel Park improvements. And Mr. Pringle.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Dursey. Alec Pringle with the Public Works Agency. The item before you is to approve the plans and specs and award a contract to Camarillo Engineering of Somas for approximately $993,000. The contract is to make improvements at Steckel Park between Santa Paula and Ojai. It includes replacement of an existing restroom, addition of a new restroom, some new RV spots, as well as utility hookups, replacement of some of the picnic tables, and improvements to the roadways there. So, the approximate time to complete the job is about 90 working days, so without delays, we expect the project completed about mid-March. Be happy to answer any questions.
It's nice to be able to get some bids that are below estimates for a change. We're starting to see that now. Do we have a motion on this item?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and it's paid for with Prop 12 and Prop 40. Seeing no objection to the motion, then that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is regarding the approval of the Watershed Protection District and some funding with the geological surveys. Mr. Pratt.
Good morning, Chair Parks, board members, Mr. Dursey. For the record, my name is Jeff Pratt. This is a ratification and approval and a request to ask that I be authorized to sign on your behalf. It's something we've been doing with the USGS for years. They supply the sediment information that we need for all of our flows, operation, maintenance, capital project design. A question that might come to mind is why don't we hire somebody to do this at these prices, when the fact of the matter is that when we have storms, they put 4+ people in the field, something we couldn't do with a single person. So we recommend that you continue forward with this agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Motion and a second. Seeing no objections, and I note that it isn't as much funding as we had previously been getting for this program. Is that right?
We've reduced the scope a bit.
Okay, and unfortunately the costs of the program have gone down a bit too, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is item 31, and this is our Resource Management Agency regarding census data.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Dursey. For the record, I'm Tricia Meyer of the Resource Management Agency's Planning Division, and I'm here this morning to present to you the U.S. Census Bureau's LUCA program. I don't know how many of you were thinking about the 2010 census before you received this board letter, but the census starts years in advance with preparations for their decennial census, and this LUCA program is really the first step in a complete count of all residents within the county.
Trust me, politicians are paying attention to anything that deals with redistricting.
Okay. LUCA stands for Local Update of Census Addresses, and simply stated, its primary aim is to reduce the undercounting that often occurs, and we know that that happens on a statewide level as well as on county levels. This is accomplished by having local jurisdictions review the Census Bureau's address lists well in advance of the census mailing so they can be field verified. They send folks out to do the address canvassing, and they add as many addresses as they can. The benefits of a robust address list for the county are manifold. Ultimately, census data is used for apportionment of congressional seats in California. It's used for, as you mentioned, the redistricting of supervisorial districts, and for appropriation of funding for many state and federal programs. I have a list of just the top 50 formula grants that are used for giving funding to state and local programs, including everything from school lunch programs, foster care assistance funding, Head Start funding. They basically rely on population data from the census to determine how much they're going to give in CDBG funds and home funds to each jurisdiction, as well as some of the transportation funding. The board letter you received outlines LUCA participation by the county. It proposes that the Resource Management Agency take the lead on reconciling and updating the address list, with some assistance from the Assessor's Office and IT services. The Planning Division has spearheaded census efforts for the last 40 years here in the county and serves as a state data center for the U.S. Census Bureau. So it makes sense that although this is a multi-agency effort, that the Planning Division would be the one that would sort of coordinate these efforts. I do want to clarify that we're only talking about work needed to verify addresses in the unincorporated areas. We're not doing a full coordination with all of the cities and checking their address lists. We're only looking at the unincorporated areas of the county. And within this context, the Census Bureau offers 3 options for participation in the LUCA program. Staff is recommending option 1, which allows for a full review and correction of the census address lists, drawing on local knowledge, since we're the ones that know where new housing has gone in and where maybe there's some overcrowding and extra residents better than the Census Bureau would. And this is historically how we've participated in the past. Options 2 and 3, which are also possibilities, are simply truncated versions of this that don't allow for the comprehensive updating nor for challenging of census block counts where we know that a lot of new residences have gone in. For instance, for us, that would be the Cal State Channel Islands area. We know already that we would challenge the census block count there because we want the census to send folks out to do address canvassing and find out all of the new addresses that have gone in there. Before concluding, I just want to mention that since release of the board letter, the county received a letter from the Department of Finance offering a financial incentive of $2,500 for participation in the LUCA program. So this funding amount for the county is based on estimated housing growth in the unincorporated areas, since 2000. So they have funding that goes all the way from $1,000 up to like $75,000, depending on how much growth they believe has occurred within the last 7 years. The $2,500 still falls far short of the $24,000 we estimate it will cost in staff time to participate. And for this reason, staff would like to return at the mid-year budget hearings to report on actual staff time and costs associated with this program. We anticipate that 95% of the work on the LUCA program will be completed within the next 4 months. So by that time, we would have a much better idea of the actual complexity involved in the geocoding and some of the reconciling of addresses that has to occur. The county clearly benefits from a complete count of all residents in the census, and for that reason, this planning division is recommending that your board take the actions listed on page 1 of your board letter.
Thank you. And note that it's a lot less staff hours now that we have GIS and computers and all that.
Yes, yeah, significantly fewer.
Are there any comments or a motion on this item?
Move the recommended action.
Motion is second. Seeing no objections, that passes. We have a correspondence agenda of items 32, 33, and 34.
Move to receive and file.
Thank you. Motion second on that, and that also passes unanimously. It's been one of those unanimous mornings here. With that, I think that completes our regular agenda, except we have 9:30 time certains and a closed session, and since it's not quite 9:30, we'll take a brief 5-minute break and then be back for the 9:30. go. We'll come back from our brief little recess, and now is our 9:30 time certain items, and our first 9:30 time certain is item 21, and this is a resolution, and Supervisor Bennett will be doing this one.
Thank you very much. It is a number of things are coming together here in the month of November, but this is the month that is Read Early, Read Aloud month. It's the proclamation of early literacy by the Board of Supervisors. At the same time that we did this, the Ventura NFL had their Story Fest last weekend, and see Kathy here. It was a great success. Beautiful Saturday morning, and lots of children there. And I had child tagging along with me, and he's been to a number of those things at Ventura Unified School District, and he said, boy, whenever they have something that says fest in it, I like coming to these things, right? Because they have a couple, 3 or 4 different fests there now going. So with that, I'd like to first call down, before I read the resolution, Claudia Harrison from the First 5 staff to speak. But I'd also like to, and I think it's just more fun, and rather than have those people sit back there, as I call your name, if you'd also come down to the front. We have Ida Hatfield, the First 5 commissioner, who's graced us with her presence today. Samuela King from the Hueneme South Oxnard NFL. Antoinette Dodge, Ocean View Neighborhoods for Learning. Mary Lynn Dalen from Moore Park, Simi Valley Neighborhoods for Learning. Kathy Pachetti, who I just mentioned, for the Ventura NFL. Deanna Handel from First 5 with her daughter, and your daughter is? Ella, right? Perfect setting here for our Read Early and Read Often. Petra Poles from the First 5 staff. Max Sanchez from the First 5 staff. Carrie Ann Broman, First 5 AmeriCorps member. Some of you remember that AmeriCorps thing that got started under the Clinton era and stuff, and we're First 5 is still taking advantage of those members. And then Janice Rossi, First 5 consultant for the early literacy campaign, and Patricia Cervantes from the Santa Clara Valley NFL. Anybody else from an NFL or a special guest here for today? All right, I'd like to read this resolution and then ask the esteemed Executive Director of the First 5 Commission, Claudia, to grace us with some sage words about this. But this is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Ventura County proclaiming November 2007 Read Early, Read Aloud Month in Ventura County. Whereas there are approximately 68,350 children ages 0 to 5 living in Ventura County, and a child's first 5 years of life are a critical development stage for the formation of healthy habits, interests, and skills. Research shows that reading to young children improves language and cognitive development skills, and that preschool children who are exposed to books tend to do better in school and in life. The seeds of interest and ability to read may be planted and nurtured in these early years, and the positive effects of parents and caretakers reading aloud to children cannot be refuted. We encourage families of all ethnic, social, and economic backgrounds to embrace the value of books as sources of knowledge and entertainment, and our community stands to benefit greatly from its children's early education and school readiness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in proclaiming November 2007 as Read Early, Read Aloud Month in Ventura County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors encourage every resident to participate in the first annual book exchange throughout Ventura County, and encourages every family to have books in their homes, to visit their local libraries, and to read to children 0 to 5. Presented this the 6th day of November by the Board of Supervisors. I'd like to come down and present this to Claudia, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of First 5, we'd like to thank the board for issuing this proclamation and for your role in Read Early, Read Aloud Month. This is an intensive month-long campaign, but we see it as just the beginning of a much longer campaign to really encourage more parents to read to their children early and often. We are partnering with our Neighbors for Learning, many of whom you see are here today. We're also partnering with the public library systems, and in fact, our public launch will be on Wednesday at the Camarillo Library, so we thank the county for that as well. And all of the public library systems throughout the county are participating. In addition, Barnes & Noble will be hosting a book fair. I'll talk more about that in just a second. The Star in Education Foundation, Ventura County Star, and Domino's Pizza will help in the distribution of some of this information as well. So we're really very, very thankful for the partnerships that we have. You'll see throughout this month bin exchange programs that families can take a book, leave a book. You'll hear, hopefully, public service announcements on different radio stations, and you will see more and more information about messaging about reading to your children. What do we want to accomplish? We really want to reach more parents. We want them to read to their children regularly, which is defined as 4 or more days a week, and we want them to read to their children younger, starting at birth, and actually many parents do it before birth. But that's what we are hoping to see. And the reason is because we know that simply reading to your child at an early age can have an impact that lasts a lifetime. And I like to look at it as one of the most cost-benefit interventions that we have in terms of just simply reading a book and having fun doing it at the same time. Our Neighborhoods for Learning for the past 5-6 years have been doing early literacy program with our most at-risk families, encouraging early reading to children, and we're seeing results. We're seeing that parents who enter the programs increase by 40 percentage points the amount of time that they're reading to their children on a regular basis. And again, cost-effective, great benefit. What we also want to do, though, however, is to reach all parents. One of the things that we know is that 2/3 of low-income families don't have access to books. We also know that the more access to reading materials you have, the better your reading scores are. It actually correlates, which is pretty amazing. And so part of this campaign is to reach all children. And here comes the Barnes & Noble Book Fair. On Thanksgiving weekend, Barnes & Noble is hosting a book fair on behalf of First 5 Ventura County, and a portion of the proceeds will go in the form of gift cards that will enable us to buy books, to distribute them through our NFLs and through our Reach Out and Read programs so that we can truly access the low-income families. And so right here, our first ever public distribution of the vouchers, I'd like to provide one to each of you and hope that you'll help support it. And remember, it is books for low-income families. So in addition to participating in the book fair, what you can do is to find a young child and read to that child and have fun doing it, because remember, it's never too early to read to a child. Thank you so much for the proclamation.
I note also how we have some wonderful new libraries out there in the communities too for people to access. So it's great partnership with the library system. Yes. Maybe Claudia should get up on that step too. And I note that the Barnes & Noble Book Fair voucher is for the Ventura store and the Westlake store. Thank you very much. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you. And the neat thing also about reading to children is you get to read these really neat books. Those children's books are the greatest. I love them. Yes.
And you get to read them again and again and again.
Over and over and over, the same one. That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next time, 9:30 time certain, was actually going to be presented by Supervisor Foy, but I get the pleasure of doing this because this is one of my favorite days. This is proclaiming November 14th, Ventura County GIS Day. Rah! Whereas Geography Awareness Week is November 11th through 17th, and whereas National Geographic Information System, GIS, Day is November 14th, 2007, and whereas GIS is an important part of geography awareness, and whereas it is estimated that 90% of county government information is geographic in nature, and whereas GIS technology provides an efficient and effective means for managing geographic data, and whereas GIS has been proven to benefit government and private sector by saving money and time related to workflow, increasing accuracy and productivity, and resulting in better decisions, analyses, and reports, and whereas GIS provides an organization-wide data repository as a decision support tool, and whereas as an organization-wide data repository it facilitates effective communications and collaboration within and among agencies of Ventura County and between Ventura County and the public. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim November 14th as Ventura County GIS Day. And I don't mean to belittle it, because I think GIS is probably the greatest tool that's happened to our county in terms of our technology. And we have witnessed so many examples of it, from the great ability to do our supervisorial districts before I came on the board, watching, doing it online, basically, something that could have never been done in the past. And we also had an item before us regarding census data, and it took 300 hours in the 1990s before we had GIS, and now it is a fraction of that. So it certainly saves time, money, and gives us far better data. So I want to thank you, and I'll bring this down, and if you'd like to come up and speak and to recognize this wonderful day.
Thank you, Supervisor Parks, members of the board, Mr. Dursey. Thank you for acknowledging GIS and the use in the county. I would like to invite you, your staff, all members of the county to attend GIS Day at the county next Wednesday. It will be from 9 to 4 in this room. There will be fascinating presentations by the different departments, such as Public Works, Resource Management Agency, Fire, IT Services, the Water Resources Group, Transportation. It's going to be an exciting day as to how staff are using this technology to be more efficient and more productive. Thank you.
I particularly like when you get the aerial photographs in there too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Presentation, so it's Wednesday the 14th.
Correct.
We'll come and see the presentation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
When I was in college studying, having to do this kind of GIS stuff, we were down to just doing it by pixel. It's nice to see the advancements that have been made from what we had to do. Thank you very much. Our next item, I think, is our closed session. Is that correct? And do we have any announcements that we anticipate from the closed session?
There will be no announcements.
All right. Well, this is a record-breaking meeting. We're going to go to closed session and then adjourn from there. Thank you very much.